If you're applying to medicine or dentistry and are trying to work out how to write a really strong personal statement, this video that I'm about to show you is one from a brand new course that we've released. So the course itself is actually a brand new free course that we're bringing out very soon, so watch this space for that. But it's actually directed at parents and how they can help their children, or teachers and how they can help their students when they're applying to medicine or dentistry. However, this personal statement video is actually really good for anybody who's writing one, whether they're helping somebody write one, to give you exactly the playbook for how to make sure you end up with a really good personal statement. So I'd recommend you either watch it for yourself or tell a parent about the course so they can know how to facilitate your studies and really help you on your way to getting into medicine or dentistry. And also keep a lookout for the end of the video where I'm going to show you some more resources that you can get for free to help with your medicine and dentistry application. And with that said, I will shut up and hand over to the video, but I hope you enjoy this lesson on personal statements. So in this session, we're going to talk about the personal statement. Now, the personal statement actually at this stage when you're watching this is probably not going to be relevant anymore, because there are plans to get rid of the personal statement and swap it instead for a series of questions. But essentially, it is just taking away the kind of free-form writing to guide students to be saying the right sort of things. And the idea is to even the playing field a little bit more so that those who don't know how to write a good personal statement are guided as to the way they should write it. So a lot of the principles will translate, and a lot of the things that I'm going to say will still hold true in the new short question or short paragraph format. But I'm going to go through the personal statement as it is, but like I say, a lot of these things are changeable to the new way of doing things. Now, the personal statement is of varying importance. Some universities like King's College London, with that and the UCAT are the two main things that they look at. So they want to see a really good personal statement, well written, with lots of experience and a wealth of things that they've seen and explorations to show that they want to go into medicine or dentistry. However, then there are other universities that literally don't look at it at all. And then you have everything in between. At the lower end of the scale, you have universities that literally just use it for interviews. So the panelists or the interviewers will have that just to prompt them for some questions to ask and essentially check that the person who is being written about here is the person in front of them that they say they are. Then you'll have some universities that will weight it. So they'll give it a score and they'll use that as part of an overall weighting to decide whether to invite people to interview and then subsequently offer them a place. So like I say, of varying importance, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't give it its due attention. The personal statement is a very mirror image of the things that they'll want to see at interviews. So they want to see that you've explored the career, that you have insights into it, that you've gained some work experience, that you understand what you're letting yourself in for, and that you are a good candidate. Now, this, even if you're applying to universities that will not look at the personal statement at all, it at least gets you to kind of formulate all of the experiences that you've had, all your reasons for wanting to study medicine, and really just solidifies your thinking as to why you're doing this. And it's a really important precursor to your interviews and for the rest of your reasons why you're actually going to undertake something that's very stressful and very difficult. And also with these new changes where it's being broken down into questions, universities might use that as a prompt to change the way that they do things. So just because you are applying to a university that historically didn't pay attention to personal statements doesn't mean that you should now suddenly ignore it and not give it its due attention. But the main goal of the personal statement is essentially to answer three questions. The first is why you want to study medicine. The second is that you've gained some sort of experience and insights into the career to know that you want to do it. And the third is that you are the kind of person that will go on to make a great doctor or dentist. So you essentially possess the traits they want to see in a good candidate. So therefore we need to be structuring our personal statement accordingly. Now I'm going to propose a method where we break it down into 6. As I say, the personal statement is probably going to change by the time you're watching this, but currently the character limit is 4,000 including spaces. So 4,000 characters or 47 lines, whichever one comes first. And although I recommend that you divide it into 6, it doesn't have to be strict. You can borrow from one section to lend to the other one, and it doesn't have to be exactly. Extracurriculars, for example, tend to be anything from a 1/6 to a 1/4 because it's quite a large section. Now, those 6, here's how I would break them down. So 2/6, so a third, would be on why medicine or why dentistry, depending on which one you're going for. Then 3 of the 6, so a half, would be dedicated to your exploration. So that's everything from work experience, volunteering, paid work, any further reading that you've done. Put all of your things that you've done to make you understand why dentistry or medicine is the right career for you. And then the final 6th is on extracurricular activities. So these are again where we're looking at traits. You can litter traits throughout, the things that you've seen and the traits that you've admired in doctors or dentists and how you possess them or how you've realized they're important. But essentially the extracurriculars bit is the bit where you're showing you as an individual, particularly why you're suited to it. Now the conclusion needs to be just a high level summary of everything that you've put in there, and doesn't necessarily need to, just like in an essay, you don't bring up any new points there, you just summarize everything, and again, a punchy, succinct finishing line for why you think you'd make a great doctor or dentist. So that's the way as a parent you can help your child formulate the general outline of how the personal statement should go. Later I'm going to talk to you exactly about how as a parent you can help, but really the most important thing is the granular structure of how you formulate the sentences. Now this is the thing that will translate most to the new format where it will be short form questions. The really important thing when your child or someone is writing a personal statement is to do the following format. The first thing is what you did, what you observed, and how that will translate to you being a good doctor or dentist. So for example, they might say something like, when I was on my work experience in hospital, I observed an appendectomy. What really struck me was the importance of the teamwork for how the whole theatre staff coordinated together to make sure everything flowed smoothly to provide an optimal operation. It taught me the importance of teamwork, and discussing it with the doctors after, I realized the importance of teamworking skills. Now that is the crux of what you did, what you observed, and then you realize the importance of it. So the pro move is to take that revelation that's at the end of what you did, what you observed, and how that relates back to being a great doctor or dentist, and then roll that revelation into the next point. So for example, we ended up on teamwork. I realized the importance of teamwork. This is something that I noticed even further in my next experience, for example, in A&E, where I observed a crash call and a patient was in an emergency situation, and the whole team coordinated together to blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. They did this and this happened. It also taught me the importance of being calm under pressure. That's really important. Or you could even say that I spoke to the doctors and they explained to me the importance of being calm under pressure. I try and practice this being calm under pressure by being a serious chess player and entered a lot of chess tournaments. This has taught me this. So you carry kind of continuing that. It's almost like an S shape. You know, you're going what you did, what you observed, what that's taught you, going back into what you did, what you observed, what that taught you, and you just carry on that S shape like that. And that is how you make a really flowy and very to the point personal statement that explains the crux of the traits that you want to develop, the understanding of what's important out of your experiences, and generally just presents somebody who understands what they're getting themselves into. Now, one thing that is a really important factor, whether it is the current personal statement format or the new one, is the quality of English. It is really like somebody coming to a job interview and being very well dressed versus somebody who's a bit shabby. It's the impression that it creates. You can take two people with the same content, and if you dress it up with really good quality English, it will just come across way better. I have friends at university who simply got by being good writers. They did okay work but presented it beautifully, and it's just pleasing on the eye, and therefore that just creates a better impression and just lands more favorably. Now this is a incredibly important skill, and I spend a lot of time with my students reviewing the quality of English and really getting in, I'm very anal about all of this stuff, and really review it and give a lot of feedback about the quality of English because of its importance. Now, I won't go into it too much here for exactly how I do that, but there is one book that I highly recommend. It's called Revising Prose by Richard Lanham, and I'll link to it in the description below. But it's quite expensive. It's probably about £50 to £60. But honestly, writing well and being able to write in good quality English is one of life's biggest skills, and it's something that I wish I would have learned a lot sooner in life, because it would have helped me with essays, exams, and all sorts of other things if I would have learnt this skill. So like I say, that book is the best one. The first two chapters will completely change the way that you and your child thinks about writing, and will instantly improve their quality of written English, which, as I say, is a force multiplier in life, and something that if you can develop that, it's worth that many 10 times over. So once you've got to this stage, this should have a reasonable draft. And this is where the review part comes into play. Now, the idea is to get it in front of a few eyes just to get some feedback and suggestions for improvement. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be a medical person, but that does help because they can offer some insights and maybe clarify some errors in the way things have been phrased, or just things that show that they don't quite fully understand what they've seen. So reviews and feedback are important, but please be selective about your reviewers. Firstly, have people whose opinion you trust, but also it gets to a point where it's kind of too many cooks. You can have too much input and it's kind of different people are saying different things, and it just kind of reaches a point of diminishing returns. So if you can get someone medical, that's great. Like I say, get people that you trust. And really, if you can get somebody to do the final review who is a good writer, so somebody who maybe is working in media, or anybody that writes or reads a lot for a living, or maybe they're an editor, if you can get somebody like that, they are worth their weight in gold to do the last bit to tidy up the quality of English. So save them for the very last. Now also, be respectful of your reviewers. They are giving up their time to lend to you to help you with this. So give them the best opportunity they can to help you. Firstly, don't rush them and give them 2 days to quickly turn this around. Also, don't give them something that is not finished. There's nothing more annoying when people send me their first paragraph and they say, oh, could you review my personal statement? Well, just one paragraph doesn't give me a picture overall. Even in the new era where it is going to be broken down into short paragraphs, obviously they're going to be reading them all together, and it's going to be about the coherence amongst all of them. So even then they should be reviewed as a whole rather than just one paragraph at a time. So like I say, be respectful to the reviewer to get it the best you can get it so that they can take it to the next level. But also, it's a complete waste of a review if you don't get it to the best you can. It's in your best interest to get it to as good as you can possibly get it, and then they can take it to the next level. Don't be lazy and expect them to do the work for you. Now, another thing that UCAS request is a tutor reference. So it's essentially the same again, a personal statement, but objectively from somebody else who's a third party. Now, typically, if you're in school or university, it will normally be a teacher or a lecturer, or maybe a head of sixth form or head of department, but you can choose somebody external if you want, but schools typically will ask you to choose someone internal. Now, the chances are that this is somebody who you've respected enough to want to be a part of your personal statement formulation, and they're probably going to have been one of your reviewers. But when your referee is writing your tutor reference, you want them to do a few things. The first thing you want to do is give them your personal statement so that they know what you've written and they can kind of corroborate what you've said. The second thing is you want to give them a list of the things that you haven't included. So when it comes to your personal statement, there are a number of things that you could have put in, but obviously because of the character count, you are limited to kind of putting your best things forward. Now, there's a list of things that you probably would like to have said if you had infinite space, but didn't manage to fit into the character count. So what you want to do is give them a list of the things that you want them to include. Now, that isn't just necessarily things that you couldn't fit into your personal statement. If you've got one or maybe two maximum things that were absolutely fantastic and you want them to kind of reiterate or compliment from a different angle or just corroborate, make them know that as well. So let them know that you want them to back up that really amazing thing that's in the personal statement that you just want to have reinforced. And then the final thing that we ask our students to do, and if you have access to one, is to give the referee a guide on how to write a tutor reference for a medical or dental application. So before we finish, let's talk about how you as a parent can help your child when they're writing their personal statement. Now, the very first thing that I would recommend you do is get them to set up an information bank. Now, we have our own system, but this is basically a way to capture all of the relevant information that might go into a personal statement. It's very difficult to sit down and in 1 or 2 hours just magic up everything that's amazing that you've ever done that you want the medical or dental schools to know about. So really what we're trying to do is, in the run up to sitting down to write it, is to, over the course of a few days, maybe a few weeks, to capture everything somewhere. So it's all of work experience, the reflections, you might have had some new insights along the way. There's maybe that award that you got 5 years ago that's actually really fantastic, but you completely forgot about it, and it's a real demonstration that you're an outstanding student. We want that in there, but obviously maybe that isn't something that comes to mind straight away. So the idea is that over the course of that time, we can just capture everything. So when it comes to sitting down and writing the personal statement, rather than trying to think up of everything in one go, it's more of a case of pulling things across that we think will work well to weave within the narrative of what we're trying to say in our personal statement. The second thing is to encourage them to be on top of it with timing. So as we said, typically the first week of September, around the 7th, is when applications open, and they close typically around the 15th-ish of October. Now, what we don't want to be doing is leaving it to the last minute and having to get reviews and we're waiting for people, because really the personal statement is a bit of work up front, a few hours to get a first draft. Then you go away, you think about it, you come back, you revise it, you make it a bit better. Then you start thinking of sending it off to people, and it's just a waiting game then to have them bring you some recommendations and some corrections. You then put an hour or two into implementing those and making it work, and then you send it off again to somebody else for a different review. And so the time consuming element is getting other people's feedback. So really what we want to do is allow for that. Now, the worst thing is when somebody gets a personal statement with a day to go and you're trying to, even if it's not very good, that's a real problem, that you're trying to kind of revive it in the last 24 hours. What you want to be doing is kind of thinking about it in August and having a really good draft ready. One of the problems is that during the summer, that's typically where some of the really big elements like work experience and other things that will make a big part of the personal statement are done. So we need to do it after we've carried all of those out so that we can talk about them. But again, early enough so that we've got time to really take our time with it and give time for people to review and just submit our best possible personal statement. And then really the final thing you can do is just help with reviews, whether it's reviewing yourself, looking at the quality of English, which is a big thing especially for the younger students who haven't quite grasped exactly how to formulate words to sound the best, but also helping with coordinating reviews. Maybe somebody in your network is medical or dental and can help, or you know someone who's a good writer or writes as part of their work and are very good and will be able to give good feedback. Just start thinking about who you can ask to do a review, and maybe start reaching out to them and saying, look, at some point in August or September, my child's going to have a personal statement finished and we would really love your input. So doing things like that and making sure that the quality of English is really good. Like I say, that book I genuinely think is one of the best books I've ever bought in terms of upskilling me very quickly for something that is such an important life skill. So maybe consider getting that, and like I say, the link is in the description below. So there you have it. Whether we stick to the personal statement or move on to some short form questions, here are some fairly timeless principles that are still going to translate into the new format for how you can help your child write with quality, the things that they want to be getting across, and then also writing with good quality English that helps them put their best selves forward with their current experience and traits and skill sets that they have. So that was probably the only other longish session that we'll have, but well done for sticking through it, and I will see you in the next lesson. So I hope you found that useful. As we said, this is part of a parent course that is coming out very soon. And what I'm going to do is, once it is available to be released, I'm going to post a video here that's going to tell you exactly how to access it. But otherwise, in the meantime, if you want to get more resources and more help with your medicine or dentistry application, check out this video here. So I hope you enjoyed that and hopefully see you in one of those videos.